and I call those SL. And I'm not going to put any name in there because it's going to be the same as that one. And the range, the same thing. So I can either list it again or create a variable out of it. Now we need to tie it into the UI. What we do is we put brackets around and a comma to split them up. And if I tie those two together, I now actually have a spinner and a slider being connected together. So again, I'll just redefine this, and we've got a spinner and a slider. You can see they can actually control each other. It might be nice. That's kind of cool. You can also do other things with the sliders and spinners. If you take a look in the MaxScript reference under slider, you'll actually see you can do things like orient vertical after it. So we could actually change up the orientation of this. Orient vertical, and what we'll end up with is a vertical one. Now what we might want to do is put them side by side, and you can also arrange control objects like this, or items, UI items, into columns, so you can go across two. What it'll do is it'll split the rollout into two columns so that they can actually sit side by side. You can also now do offsets or absolute positions. I prefer using offsets. Let's offset the slider so it sits further over to one side, and let's offset the spinner so that it sits over to the left side, and push them up and down. Now you can either use an offset. Let's actually try this and go align. There's an align command and right, and this one we'll want to do an align left. And you can see that pushes them over. And of course you can also do things like field width and make your spinner wider. Again, we could also do an offset even on this. Even though we've pushed it to the right, we could say offset, and we want to push it down so it's more it's beside the slider. Let's say you could say first numbers across, so 0, comma, let's say 30 down, and we'll see what that does. We'll see how that ends up positioning our, and it's positioned it just about smack dab in the middle, so it was a good guess. So now I actually have ones that control each other sitting side by side. I can even make that field width wider. And you can see why I actually go about the trouble of scripting my own custom attributes, is I have way more control over building a UI that I like and that the animators are going to be happy with, that I'm going to be happy with if I'm animating the rig, as well as I can save this off and run it on the next character. I mean, I have tons of these attribute definitions floating around for all kinds of different control panels that I've scripted up, and I don't have to go back through the custom attribute tool to rewrite them every single time. They're there, they're just waiting. I just open them up, run the lines of code, and close them off again. So there's a nice little setup for the pupil then. Next step is to connect up the pupils, so the X form that is controlling the size of the pupil, to the actual parameters that we've set up here. So I'm just going to minimize our script. We don't need it at the moment. Go ahead and grab our object, which is buried in there somewhere. There it is. And what we're going to do is we want to wire the gizmo scale to this. So I'm going to go down to wire and modified objects, X form, gizmo scale. Now the gizmo scale, and I'm going to connect it up to the pupil attribute that I've added. The scale is an XYZ value, a 0.3 value, so all the values are contained in one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a variable here so I can pump it into the two axes we need. We also need to know what axis we need to work on. Throw it on local, and you see it's Y and X is that we need to scale this on evenly. Essentially on Z we don't need to do anything at all. So let's make up a variable, pupil, and we want it to start at a value of